The sun had barely risen over the sprawling plains when the rancher, Cole Maddox, rode out from his homestead, dust trailing behind his boots and the worn leather of his saddle creaking under him. The morning air smelled of earth and wild grass, the kind that carried both promise and hardship. His ranch had been his life for over 20 years, harsh winters, unforgiving summers, and the endless labor that came with raising cattle on this vast, lonely land. Yet for all his years of work and toil, something deep in him felt unfinished, a yearning he couldn't name until the moment she appeared on the edge of the meadow. She had been tending to a cluster of wildflowers, her hair catching the sunlight like spun gold, and when she turned, their eyes met, and the world seemed to pause. Her name was Lila, and she was unlike anyone Cole had ever known, soft-spoken yet daring, delicate yet unyielding. She walked toward him, her boots crunching the dry soil, and when she stopped, she looked up at him with eyes that held both fire and something far more tender. "One day I'll give you a child," she said softly, and her voice was so intimate, so quiet, that it felt like she had whispered it into the core of his soul. Cole's heart, hardened by years of solitude and unrelenting work, skipped a beat. He felt powerless, disarmed by words he had never imagined hearing, by a promise that seemed both impossible and inevitable. For days after that morning, Lila lingered at the edges of his ranch, helping with chores, mending fences, and tending to the few horses that remained strong enough to work the land. Cole tried to maintain his usual stoic demeanor, but every time she laughed or brushed a strand of hair from her face, he felt the walls he had built around himself weaken. Nights were the hardest. He would sit on his porch, whiskey in hand, staring at the endless sky, and think about what she had said. The thought of holding her child, of feeling a family of his own, filled him with a longing he had buried for decades. Yet he couldn't speak of it, couldn't let himself hope. Lila, perceptive as ever, noticed the change in him, the way his gaze lingered on her hands when she worked, the way he would pause mid-sentence, lost in thought whenever she entered the room. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, painting the sky in shades of fire and rose, she approached him quietly while he repaired a broken fence. She didn't speak at first. She simply placed a hand on his arm, warm and grounding. "Cole," she said, her voice trembling just enough to betray the emotion beneath. "You don't have to be afraid of wanting something more." His hands, calloused and rough from years of labor, trembled slightly as they held the hammer. For a long moment they stood like that, the world around them fading, until only the quiet rhythm of their breaths remained. Finally he spoke, his voice low and unsteady. "I don't know if I can." She smiled, a mix of sadness and hope, and squeezed his arm. "You already can," she whispered, and in that instant he knew it was true. The days that followed were filled with unspoken tension and quiet moments that spoke, louder than any words. She would pass by, brushing against him, leaving traces of her presence like the lingering scent of spring. At night, he found himself walking to her cabin, compelled by a need he could no longer deny. Their first night together was not rushed. It was a slow surrender to the feelings they had both kept hidden. Every touch, every whispered word drew them closer, binding them in a way that transcended the physical, merging their hearts into something fragile yet unbreakable. Morning light found them tangled in the sheets, a mixture of sweat and laughter, and he realized that he had never felt so alive, so utterly consumed by love and desire. Weeks passed, and their connection deepened. Cole found himself imagining a future he had once believed impossible, a home filled with laughter, a child running barefoot through the fields, Lila by his side, smiling. Yet fear lingered at the edges of his happiness. Could he protect them? Could he provide a life free from the hardships he had endured? Lila, ever perceptive, sensed his doubts. One evening, as they sat by the fire, she took his hands in hers and said, "We will face it together, Cole. Whatever comes, we will face it together." Her certainty, her unwavering faith, began to dismantle his fears. By the time the first snow fell, blanketing the ranch in white, Cole had accepted a truth he could no longer deny. He was powerless against the life and love Lila had offered him. and in that surrender he found strength, courage, and a hope he thought long dead. Spring arrived with the scent of fresh grass and the promise of new beginnings, carrying with it changes that would alter the course of Cole Maddox's life forever. Leela was glowing with a radiance that seemed to light up every corner of the ranch, and Cole could not take his eyes off her. Every morning he watched her as she worked in the stables, her movements graceful yet strong, and felt a stirring in his chest that was equal parts awe and longing. One evening, after a long day tending to the fields, he found her sitting beneath an old oak tree, humming softly to herself. As he approached, she looked up, and the sight of her smiling face made his heart leap. "Cole," she whispered, her voice carrying the weight of something more. "Come sit with me." He obeyed without hesitation, kneeling beside her in the cool grass. The world felt suspended around them, the distant call of birds and the rustling of leaves forming a gentle symphony. "I want to tell you something," she said, reaching out to touch his cheek. He leaned into her hand, the roughness of his skin contrasting with her softness, and waited. "I'm ready," she murmured, "to give you the family we've dreamed of." Her words hit him like a lightning bolt, igniting a fierce joy that made him ache all over. He had imagined this moment countless times, yet nothing could have prepared him for the reality of it. The certainty, the intimacy, the overwhelming love. They embraced beneath the fading light, and in that embrace the ranch, the plains, and the endless skies bore witness to a bond that was unbreakable. The following weeks were a whirlwind of preparation and quiet anticipation. Cole worked tirelessly to ready the cabin for their growing family, building cradles, sewing blankets, and ensuring that every corner of their home spoke of warmth and safety. Leela, in turn, nurtured the life within her, tending to her health, her spirit, and the love that bound them. Their nights were a mixture of tender affection and passionate intimacy, each moment reinforcing the promise she had made, that one day he would hold their child in his arms. One evening, as the sun dipped low and cast a golden glow over the ranch, Lila placed a hand on her belly and looked at him with tears in her eyes. "Cole," she said softly, "it's happening. Oh, child is coming." The words struck him dumb, and for a moment he could only hold her, feeling the tiny movements that spoke of life, of hope, of the future they had both longed for. In the months that followed, Cole became fiercely protective, attending to her every need, cherishing each heartbeat, each flutter, each sign of the life they had created together. Their love, once private and tentative, grew deeper and more profound, entwined with the anticipation of their child, and the shared dreams that now felt attainable. Winter gave way to spring once more, and with the first blooms, their child arrived, a tiny, perfect embodiment of their love. Cole held the baby in his arms for the first time, tears streaming down his face as he looked at Lila. "We did it," he whispered, voice choked with emotion. Leila rested her head against his shoulder, smiling through her tears. "You did it, Cole. We did it together." In the quiet moments that followed, as they rocked their newborn beneath the vast expanse of the western sky, Cole felt a completeness he had never known. The ranch, once a place of solitary labor, had become a home filled with laughter, warmth, and unbreakable bonds. He knew that no challenge, no hardship, could ever diminish the love they shared or the family they had created. And in that truth, he found a peace that had eluded him for decades, a peace built on surrender, trust, and the unwavering promise that had first brought them together. One day, "I'll give you a child." As the camera of life slowly pulled away from the Maddox Ranch, leaving the golden fields and the gentle glow of sunset, the story of Cole and Lila stood as a testament to the power of love, resilience, and the beauty of a promise kept. To everyone watching, remember, if you want more heart-stirring stories of love, courage, and the untamed frontier, hit that subscribe button and join us as we uncover more tales that touch the soul and stir the heart.